Talking English is important. This is an official language in several countries like Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, among others, being used in several fields. But how many people speak English around the world? The English is a world language where 1 out of every 5 people in the world speak English as a native, second, or foreign language. So, of people who speak English, 403 million or 6.6% are natives, 950 million or 14.6% are non-natives, and 5 billion, 1 million, that's the equivalent of 78.8%, don't speak the language. Thus, among those who speak English, 30% are natives and 70% are non-natives.
The countries that speak more English in descending order are United States, India, Pakistan, Nigeria, Philippines, United Kingdom, Germany, Bangladesh, Egypt, and Canada. It shows that the fluency in English is important in travel and business, also opening doors for new opportunities of employment and for knowledge too, since 56% of all sites are written in English.
But according to the English Proficiency Index conducted by Education First and International Education Group, the Brazilians still have a low level of knowledge of the English language, being ranked 41st in the ranking of English proficiency.
Because of that, through this video, we will show the importance of English in our lives.
We interviewed some people about the importance of the English in their lives. Then, we interviewed Alex, a Brazilian that works at Eton, but he's been living in the United States for 3 years.
Hello, my name is Alex and I live in Michigan, United States, and I'm recording this video to help a friend of mine.
The first question is, how do you see the importance of studying and learning English language by other cultures, considering the globalized world where we live?
I think English now is must do, is mandatory. That there is no way, if you want to live really in a global world, to not know how to speak English, because either movies, books, or depends on the career you're gonna follow, English is gonna be very close to you. And if you know how to speak English, you can travel any place in the world and you're gonna find someone that can talk to you in English. Not all the people, but for sure you're gonna find some people that can talk to you, and that can be really a life-safe game depending on the situation you are.
As a foreigner, can you be understood when you are outside the United States?
My answer to that question gonna be depends, and really depends on where you are, if you are in a big city or if you are in a small city, and depends on how you are talking to. If you are in a big city and you are talking to teenagers and people around their 30 to 40 years old, probably you can speak English and those people are going to understand you. But if you travel to a small city and you are talking to more old people, probably or most probably those people will not understand you.
How do you think the English language affects the opportunities and directions on someone's life?
So this question for me really depends on what kind of professional, what kind of career that person is looking for in the future. So if that person, for example, lives in a country like Brazil and wants to be a doctor in Brazil or wants to be a nurse in Brazil, that person may not need to learn or to speak English very well, but that person for sure gonna need to at least understand, or gonna be at least be able to read a lot of papers and a lot of technical information in English. But if you want to live in those countries and have a professional inside that country that does not have a lot of interface globally, English may not be a big issue. But if you want to become an engineer, for example, and work for a big multinational company and work with different countries, English is mandatory, and there is no way. You really need to speak, really need to write, you really need to be able to read, because English is really a global language, and I don't think they're going to be not going to be different in the future. And I would say now English, and then probably Spanish being the next one.
Even if you are fluent in the language, quote an example of a life experience in which English was important for you.
My first travel to Italy was with my wife. We were in home, it was late night, and we were just walking to go back to our hotel, but we got lost. And uh, if you did not speak English, we would be in a not comfortable situation, because as we try to talk to some people and try to get the right direction for the hotel, the first people we talked, they only speak Italian, and we did not speak Italian. But after we talked to the third or fourth people, we found a teenager who was able to speak English, and that person was really helpful to provide us direction to go to our hotel.
Well, this is a Brazilian opinion, but what about the foreigners? What do they think and how do they live with the English language? To know more about it, I talked with some people through a website called the Interpost, where the whole world can be connected, knowing new people, new cultures, and of course, new languages. Almost everybody there were using English to communicate, and I took the chance to talk with two people, Aya and Peter. Aya is from America, but she lives in Korea. From what she observed there, Koreans place a lot of importance in their children studying English. She works in a school where they introduce English to their students in kindergarten. She realized that English has pretty much become the international standard for business and trade, so the country really strives to keep up with international trends and demands, and that's part of how they develop their country so quickly. The Korean government is also currently trying to attract more people to visit Korea to boost tourism. So all of that would mean it would be beneficial to know English, especially for people living in Seoul, which is the capital and the city that most foreigners visit.
For the children, they often do see why it's important, especially if they live in the countryside where they don't see any foreigners at all. But learning English would mean they have a better chance to compete in the job market and open them to various opportunities in the future. Korea is the only country that speaks Korean, while many countries speak English. Also, many employers prefer bi or multilingual applicants. With her experiences of being American living in another place, she noticed that English can be considered the new lingua franca.
Another person I talked to was Peter, a Dutch guy. He acquired the English language at an early age as he was raised bilingual. For him, it's very important because he used to communicate with his family that lives halfway around the world, but he also feels more articulate while using the English language. It had a lot of nuance that Dutch doesn't have, and Peter even sometimes uses long words of English while speaking Dutch. English has a huge influence in his life because not only it's the language he feels most comfortable with and they have most exposure to, but it also became his main communicative language about 4 years ago when he started to use it more than Dutch. Now, Peter still uses it to read books, which is more comfortable as reading in language than Dutch, write academic tests, communicate with family and friends up to the point where he already made the decision to raise his future kids bilingual, with English being one of the languages, since it just gives more opportunities and really is the lingua franca of the world.
As you can see, this video will be about the importance of the English in your life. So, why English is considered the universal language? Everything is related with the development of the British Empire. With the growth of the empire, the language was spread to all over the world. There is a popular saying that expresses the extension of the British Empire in the past, which is, the sun never set on the British Empire, because literally the sun was always shining on at least one of its numerous colonies.
Today, the British Empire may no more exist, but English has stayed an important language in all the former colonies to this day.
The Industrial Revolution can be considered responsible for the spread of the English in the beginning. And after the Second War and the US reached the status of superpower, the English has become even more powerful too.
During colonialism, having access to English meant having access to education, and this created an educated elite. And everyone wants to be part of elite because elites are good to self-preservation. After independence, many formerly colonized countries officially become multilingual for the first time. The rising of English dominance in international communication was not solely the dominance of language itself, as a single language was needed so that the different language groups could communicate with each other. This language happened to be English.
Nowadays, the English has even more importance than in the past. The globalization has improved the necessity of a common language. And a common language has the function of a connective to make it possible the communication, which is vital for multiple fields of life, as professionally as in the social relations. So that's it.
Hello,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Fine too. So, I want to ask some questions about English in the graduation and the
Yes?
school.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. First question that I have to ask is what are some difficult things that you have to face when you study in Unicamp and doesn't speak English?
Well, you may have some trouble with some teachers because there are like quite a lot of foreign teachers and they don't speak Portuguese very well. So they might use English to give examples or say things that they don't know how to say in Portuguese. It's also you may also have trouble because of some tests are made in English. Like there's a lot of papers and works that we use
Hmm.
during the course that are all made in English. So you won't be able to read and understand this. And it's very bad actually because the English ones are normally the best ones. So there are some like translates like in Portuguese, but they won't be as good as the English ones. So you won't have the access of to the best material.
I think the explanation is the worst part of doesn't speak English and have a teacher that only
Yes,
explain in English. Uh,
yes, and it's hard also to learn other languages because the professors of other languages they usually use examples in English to illustrate something they can't do with Portuguese.
hmm, it's so hard, I imagine. Uh,
Yeah.
the second question is what's your opinion about foreign teachers in Unicamp? Like Spanish teacher and American teacher in Unicamp. What's your opinion about that?
Well, there are a lot, especially in the parts of like mathematics, physics, chemistry. There are a lot of international teachers, and I see that a lot of students that have a lot of trouble with them because they don't understand what the teachers are saying, and the teachers don't care that much if the students are understanding or not. And sometimes people uh, failed in these classes just because the teacher doesn't speak Portuguese very well, and the person don't speak English and can look in the books that the teacher tells them to look.
Yeah, I think that uh, it like you don't understand. Fuck you. You need to know the English.
Yes, it's they assume that all students know English, but that's not true. It's
Yes.
not even close to be true.
Yeah. The third question is, uh, tell me something that English helped you in your camp.
Well, it helped me with like reading papers and understanding examples and having access to the best material. But one thing that was funny, I had sociolinguistics and we had to write uh, like little reviews about tests. It was like 10 reviews. And the best the best papers to review were the English ones because it was much easier to like translate them to Portuguese and give a review than reviewing Portuguese works.
Sometimes English is easier than Portuguese. I think the
Yes,
most times.
yes, there this semester we made a paper of teoria gramatical, grammatical theory, and we had to read a chapter of a book and made a review of it. And even in the translated version, in like the Portuguese version of this book, all the examples were in English because it was about why computers have trouble to understand human language. And there was an example that was time flies like an arrow. And if you try to yes, it's because they open the trees, the grammatical trees, and the computer opens way too many grammatical trees, much more than it's needed. So he finds a lot of meanings to to this phrase. The one that we understand is that time uh, goes fast, very fast, like an arrow.
I think
But the
in
say.
I think in that time my head will explode with a lot of informations and oh fuck.
Sorry, I'll try to make it simple. It's like this. And when we say the sentence time flies like an arrow, we understand the time it's a fast thing, like it goes fast.
Mm.
But the computer, when it's trying to read this sentence, he understands that maybe we wanted to say that time goes fast as an arrow, that maybe time it's similar to flies, like flies, the bug that
Ah,
looks like an arrows, and a lot of no sense things. It's pretty funny actually.
yeah, it's the computer translating the exact form.
Yes, he actually it translates like all the forms that are possible according to the grammatics.
Yeah,
So the computer thinks too much, that's it.
yeah. I saw that in Unicamp, if you doesn't speak English, if you don't speak English, you will get so many troubles in your way.
Yes, will be much harder to graduate.
Like if in a normal time you will graduate in 5 years, you will graduate in 7 if you don't speak English.
Yes, maybe.
Whoa.
It's hard. But you can learn English. There's a class to learn English in Cell, which is the place where they teach all the languages there are to learn in Unicamp. So you can try to learn English there. I have a friend that is doing English there. She doesn't speak like almost nothing. And she hates the teacher. She said that the teacher is very, very bad.
But in your opinion, do you think this English class in Unicamp is it good?
I don't know because I never made I I took like the test to see in which level my English was, but I did that so I could like queue some classes, and I don't know, but like there are some languages. Italian, it's very bad. Both teachers are bad. And Russian, I like my teacher. He's a nice guy. He's a good teacher.
Yeah. If you like the teacher, get easier to learn.
Yes.
The, instead of oh, I hate my teacher and I don't like her subject.
Yes, yes. But this friend, she likes English. She'll learn.
Okay. Oh, uh, I have to go. This
Okay.
conversation helped me a lot to know uh, the difficulties in Unicamp if you don't speak English. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for the attention.
Oh,
Have a
you're
nice
welcome.
weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye.